I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Now I can, yeah.
Okay,
Hi,
cool.
Amanda.
Hi.
All right. So I want to first say thanks to Amanda for coming on in and talk to us. I think that
Hi.
she has a ton of great information that she can share with the newly licensed agents. And just to give you a little background on Amanda, so she just completed her second year selling real estate. She's in the middle, almost middle, right, of your third year, heading towards the middle of her third year.
Yeah.
Kind of September. So Amanda, when I took over the productivity coaching program at the end of 2017, there was nobody in it. There was like 5 agents in it that no one had heard from in like a year. And so I was tasked with go and recruit for your program. Go find agents that you think that you can help and talk to them. And at the time, Amanda was working as a solo agent, and I sat down with her and talk to her a little bit about productivity coaching. And just as much as I thought, she could help me, it really was a big deal to me that she thought that I could help her too. So, so when I started to grow the program now over the past 2 years, I've been consistently coaching with Amanda while she was a solo agent, as she's moved on to the Matt Gibbs team, where she is currently working as a buyer's agent. And in the past year, just between 2018 and 2019, she's increased her income by over 200%, 200%. And it's amazing. And I've watched Amanda, start as a new agent and, not quite sure exactly what to do. And one of the things I'll say about Amanda is any idea, she's very good at executing on ideas. So a lot of our coaching calls, I would give her actionable items. And when we would talk the next week, those items were actually done. And so I have a handful of questions to ask her that I think will be valuable. But from my point of view, from coaching her for the good part of 2 years, was that she didn't just come onto the coaching call, listen to whatever I had to say, and then go back to doing whatever she was going to do anyway. She really took the advice and then ran with it, and was open in our coaching conversations to let me move forward. So thanks, Amanda, for agreeing to come on and talk to us today.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm so excited.
So I'm going to just dive right in for the sake of time. So just, Amanda, so you know, Zoom kicks me off at 12:40. So we have a hard stop at that time. So tell us, as a busy, successful real estate agent, what does your average week look like?
So my average week, it changes, our business is always changing. But I've built in a couple of like non-negotiable consistencies. So one of them is my lead generation. I always put on 3 time blocks for lead generation, lead follow-up every single week. I think I'm doing that more than I even time block for, just in conversation and things like that. But it's always something that I built into the morning portion of my day for my lead generation and lead follow-up. I'm taking 1 day a week off now, which I didn't do at the beginning because I just was running so much. So I'm taking 1 day a week off where I'm not touching my business or my phone or anything like that. And then I'm taking 1 work from home day where I am not, in the office and distracted and whatever, and that I can actually do some of the 80% activities that I don't get done during the week when I'm actually in my business. And then besides that, I have appointment time blocks for the evenings. I have 1 late work day that I'm taking like appointments after 5 o'clock. And then on the weekends is basically built in to show houses. So I'm showing anywhere from 5 to 15 to 20 houses a weekend.
That's awesome. And so it sounds like you're really purposeful about your schedule then, right? And you use a time block system now,
yes.
Right? Where when I sit down, that's my lead generation time, and I'm going to do it every single week and do it consistently. So when you talk about your lead generation time, what is it that you're doing right now to lead generate for usually buyers? So Amanda's a buyer's agent on the Matt Gibbs team. Now, the other thing about Amanda is that in 2019, she also expanded her business into Pennsylvania. So she is licensed in Pennsylvania. If anybody here has referrals for Pennsylvania, Amanda is a great resource for that. And she has been able to develop a listing and buyer business in Pennsylvania, and then a strong buyer business here in New York. So what does your lead generation look like when you sit down those 3 different time blocks?
So I have a couple strategies because I have strategy for Pennsylvania list side, and then I have strategy for New York buy side. So a big part of my strategy is the relationship building portion of my sphere. So that's going to work for both states because I've got people that I know in both spheres, in both areas. And so like I quarterly am now putting together a plan on how I'm going to contact my sphere once a quarter and what that touch is going to be like. So it's more relationship building. For cold leads, my open house strategy is probably brought me about a third of my business. I meant to do the calculation this morning, but it's brought me about a third of my business. And off of the open house strategy, it's not just holding the house open. I'm going to plug into the Gibbs team open house class that's going to be in February. I'd love if everybody could join me and I can really like lay that out on all the steps we take before the open house. But there's so much that you can do around the open house to generate leads, and accounted, like I said, for about a third of my business this year was the buyers off the open house. And then I'm also networking with other agents in KW in areas that are outside of ours. So I feel like I've found the secret juice, right? Like, what do I have that nobody else has? And I identified that and I used it to my advantage now. So bridging the gap between New York and PA is kind of my secret juice. And so I know that I'm networking with agents out in Pennsylvania to refer me business in New York. And I'm also networking with agents in New York to refer me business in Pennsylvania. And it's coming together really well. So I do get lead receivable from my team, you know, by different activities, but basically it starts by cultivating our database in our sphere, the open house lead generation plan, and just networking with other KW agents.
Yeah, and one of the things that I do know about the Gibbs team and their business strategy is they're very heavily invested in their database, right? And so all of the agents on their team are heavily invested in calling the names from their database. They don't need to do, they do a good amount of marketing, lead generation, outbound lead generation activities, but from their database, they're able to consistently network to them and always have a good solid stream of business coming in. So I think that that's really important to point out. And the open house strategy is excellent. As everybody should know by this point, even if you don't have a listing yet, you can still host an open house, right? We have open house opportunities with our listings. Last time I checked, we had around 350 active listings in the office, and it might even be more now. So if that's something that you're interested in doing, one of the things that I want to set up to be a standard is that you do go and take Amanda's open house class. That way you'll be able to make sure if you're going to take the time to go and host an open house and put some marketing dollars behind some ads and sit and spend your Saturday in a house, you want to make sure that you're making money from it. And I know Amanda has a proven strategy to help you with that. So that'll be taught monthly, right, Amanda, in the market?
Yeah, we're going to launch that February because Ignite is January. So we're going to let that roll out. And then February, I'll be doing an open house class and also a buyer consult class. So if you're looking to work with buyers, it's just how I, take the next step when I have a buyer, how I'm pre-qualifying them and getting them on the right track to become a home buyer.
Right. And maybe you can talk to the agents a little bit about how important having that buyer consultation is versus just going out and talking to anybody and starting to show them homes without making sure they're actually qualified.
Yeah, I don't really know life without the buyer consult because it's just something that was suggested of me when I first started in this business, and so I just did it. And I see the value in it now because I take an hour right from the beginning to really get to know my clients and for them to get to know me. And normally they have a lot of questions and have no clue about what the process is going to handle, or there's a lot of stuff in between about their lives that if we don't take the time to get to know them, we don't know about. So how I feel about the buyer consult is that I'm looking for all of the objections right up front so that there's going to be no surprises. And we can kind of then streamline that process. We can set the expectation for how long it's going to take. We can honor their timeline and their budget. And then we can set the expectation of communication and just how everything is going to go right along so that there's nothing hidden, and I can show them 5 houses, and that is the expectation that I'm only going to show you 5 houses, and out of those 5 it's going to be the one because we've asked enough questions and we've really gotten to know you well enough. So I feel like there is no doing business without that because we're professionals, right? So we have to set ourselves up as professionals, and this gives us control then over the process instead of giving the buyer the control over what it is that we're doing.
Right. And I'm sure with the volume of buyers that you work with, it's also important to weed out the people that aren't that serious, right?
Yes.
So that's another thing that being able to consult with people when you're talking to them on the phone and make sure that they're really motivated. You know, somebody that's not willing to show up for a buyer consultation is probably somebody that's not that motivated to actually buy a house. And so if they're not willing to show up for the consultation, are they really somebody that you would want to work with, right? Are they somebody that you're going to show 50 houses to, and then at the end of the day, they're going to decide not to work with you, right? So, so I think that's a great point. And you're also teaching the Ignite session on working with buyers?
Yeah, I'm teaching 2 classes in Ignite, January 28th and 29th. I think they're 9 to 12, and it's how to win the buyer and how to find and show homes. Awesome. So it'll tie right in. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And so, okay, so when you think about your business over the last 2 years and you increased your income a huge amount, do you have a tipping point that you saw where everything kind of shifted and fell into place? And what was that?
It was a conversation I think that Rita and I have been having for probably 6 months about my 20% activities. You know, we would just continue to drill down what is the most important things that you have to do every single day to move your business forward. And I would push back and I'd say, but you know, I have to get all of these other things done too. Like nobody else is going to do these things for me. They're also important. I am a control person. I like to be in control of the experience that I'm creating for the buyer. And I felt like I had to do everything and that they needed the answers yesterday, right? I was just in such a sense of urgency. And so when we kind of brought all of those elements together to say there are no fires in real estate, if we set the expectation, it's not their expectation that you're calling them back, within 5 seconds. And that really I had to focus on my 20% activities. Once I realized that the gap that was in my income closer, right? And Rita's like, focus on the 20% every single week. And when I finally was just like, okay, I'm just going to do it and let it go. Those 80% things I started to realize were not important, or I was able to leverage them and the help appeared when I needed it. Mm-hmm. So my customer service didn't slip. My clients still loved me. None of these things that were my fears in my head came true. I just had to let go and know that I have to set this amount of appointments every single week. I have to talk to this amount of people, and nothing else matters until I do those things. And then that's when the consistency in my business came.
Right.
So it was just really as simple as that. And it's simple, not easy, right? So.
Sometimes they say you can't see the forest through the trees, right? So sometimes you're in it and you have people emailing you and calling you and texting you and they want all these things and they want a form to sign and we're telling you to go figure out how to do opportunities and commands and all of this admin stuff that comes along with selling real estate. It's easy to get bogged down in all of that. And usually what happens, and I had a similar experience when I was a newly licensed agent, I went and I lead generated and then I put all these deals together and then I stopped lead generating because all my time was spent then on trying to get my clients to the closing table. And so then what happens? You get to the closing table, you make some money, and you have nothing in your pipeline. So now you are starting from scratch where you might go another 3 or 4 months without a closing, right? So it makes things very difficult if that's how you shift your focus. So I think that going back to what you were saying at the beginning of the call about time blocking your schedule, that definitely, I'm sure, led into being able to prioritize things. having a non-negotiable time block in your schedule to lead generate, right? And being able to say, no, I have an appointment at that time, right? Not, I see agents do that too, where they'll set appointments during their lead generation time. But if you had a buyer you were going to go show properties to, and another buyer asked to see houses at the same time, you wouldn't say to them, okay, sure, let me drop the other buyer. You would say, no, I have an appointment, during that time, and I have to reschedule you for another time. Same idea when it comes to your lead generation strategy.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that I saw you consistently do is that you are always tracking your numbers, right? And you consistently track your numbers with the PC program. Amanda, every Friday, like clockwork, pretty much, would set her numbers for us, and we would use that. And so, can you talk to me a little bit about, because I don't think that it was always such a habit to track your numbers, but once you started to do that, what a difference that made?
Well, and it's like whether I liked it or not, that's what was real. Those numbers were the real business that I was doing, the real progress that I was making. And through this year, I have learned that truly the path is in the math. These numbers, I've worked them backwards, forward, left, right. I've done my 2020 business planning now. And so it's interesting to see it in a different perspective. The numbers are going to give you the key to everything. So there was one point in time that Rita asked me, well, we had been tracking our numbers for a little while. And she goes, well, you didn't make your appointments for the week. What are you going to do to make up with it? And I was like, nothing, and I'm just like, giving pushback. So it wasn't all roses. Right. But, looking back on 2019, my answer shouldn't have been nothing. I should have made up for that gap because I didn't hit my goals because I didn't consistently hit those numbers. So now looking back, I can see that if I would have held those 2 appointments I was supposed to hold that week, then maybe I would have been a little bit closer, because I was very close to my goal. I think I was $1 million off on my volume goal for this year. I was very close. So if I think those 2 appointments could have been the 2 deals that got me to my goal, and instead of, just saying I'm not going to make up for that, it's true. I missed those appointments, so I'm short on my goal, and it's that consistent. So I know what I have to do now. It's no question.
Right. So once you really commit, and I think that part of it is, like you said, you have to commit yourself to hitting your numbers, right? There's no real estate coach that's going to be able to tell you to track your numbers and how the importance of it if you don't also have buy-in on it, right? It's the same thing as buyers. You could be standing in a house going, this is their dream home. This is everything that they told me that they want in their price point. And I don't understand why they're not writing an offer. But until the buyer decides that they're going to write an offer on that house, that in their head, it's their dream home, they're not going to. And so I think that, same thing can be said for tracking your numbers, right? Yeah, I can tell you every week, and you get the emails from me every Friday to do it. But until you really take ownership over the numbers and treat them like your business plan, not just a task to do for your coach, that's when you'll start to see a shift in your business. Okay, so think back to when you got your real estate license, and if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice your first few months as a newly licensed realtor, or your first year as a newly licensed realtor, what would it be?
Stop thinking, start doing is my piece of advice. You will never have all of the answers before you get started. By the time you have all the answers, it'll be too late to get started. So the answers will come as you need them, and the learning and growth will come as you're doing. So just don't be afraid to try and to fail. And the failures is where I've learned the absolute most about myself and my business and how to be better. And then the successes were just, they happened because I tried. So just do it.
So get into action.
Get into action. Yeah.
Awesome. And if you think, do you have a second piece of advice you'd give yourself as a newly licensed realtor?
I wrote it down.
Oh, good.
I think I tied my 2 into 1. So go without fear. It was the other one. Just go without fear, because I think we build things up in our heads. about, failure, being wrong with our clients or giving the wrong piece of information or not having all of the information. Or, if you're like me, you want to deliver, a 5-star all the time. It's not always going to be 5-star. Sometimes somebody's never going to talk to you again. Like that stuff just happens. But it's all learning experience. And so just go for it. And if you keep talking to people, it will happen for you. So I would just keep putting yourself out there and letting people know what you do.
Yeah, I think that's when I see that with new agents, and I think I was like that as a new agent, where I wanted to read like every single real estate book and listen to every single podcast and take every single class in the market center, and I felt like I was constantly setting up. I'm getting ready. I want to get everything organized and in order. And as every week that time's going by, it's more and more weeks I'm not setting appointments for myself. I'm not finding clients. I'm not making really any money. And for me, Anna actually, and again said to me, she was like, at some point you just have to get started and know that one, you're not going to know everything ever, right? There's always going to be different intricacies that pop up as deals pop up. And then two, to know though, when those intricacies or those issues, or you're just not sure exactly what to say, I would say that's two-pronged. One is that it's okay to say to people, I'm not sure of the answer of that, but I'm going to find out and I will get back to you at X amount of time, and then go get the answer for them, right? And the second part of that is just trusting that there's an entire staff in the market center that's here to help you, right? So don't ever feel like you're out on your own islands having to figure everything out yourself. Use me, use Aaron, use Hector, use Maureen, use all of us as assets and resources in your business, and we have your back if you have questions or need assistance as that comes up. Okay, so what would you say in your business are the most important tools that you use currently?
I didn't know what you meant by that. Tool.
Okay, so I'll give you an example of a couple of mine. So I use Anydo as a transaction like management, like to-do list thing. I have a tracker where I keep all my like stuff that I need to do during the day. I have an ARC planner. I keep my calendar. I use Command a lot for my numbers and tracking my business.
So I've been using Command a lot more lately just because this is what's being brought to us. And I'm finding that it's a really great system. They've got a lot of kinks that they're working out. But I think that the intention of what the system is going to do has been really great. So before that, I was using a spreadsheet. I don't like to admit, but I'm a notebook spreadsheet, type of person. And the spreadsheet's good for the pipeline, following the pipeline and moving people up the pipeline. It was just really simple for me to look at. I'm working on getting more systematized. So when I first started this career, I used a paper calendar, I used my Google Calendar. I integrate everything, with the Google Docs calendar, Gmail, all that stuff. I don't really myself.
That's a lot of tools, right? Another thing that I know, and like just to go back on that you touched on, is the pipeline tool. So I know that was one of the things that we worked on in coaching, was really starting to get your pipeline up and running. So for anybody that's newer on the call, a pipeline tool is basically a spreadsheet where you list out your business for the year. So generally when you have an appointment with somebody, or you have a good conversation with somebody that's going to lead to an appointment being set, but maybe it's not being set right that minute, you put them into your pipeline. So, and then the point of the pipeline is that you also rank them. So you would rank them from a 5 to a 10. Somebody that is a 10 is somebody you're working with right now. Somebody is a 9 is somebody that you talk to and says, this is great, I want to talk more, and I'm going to be ready to either start my search in 30 days or list my home in 30 days. Someone that is an 8 is somebody that's 60 days out. A 7 is 90 days out. A 6 is like 6 months to a year. And a 5 is a good conversation you had with somebody, but you're not really exactly sure of their timeline, or it's over a year out, but you want them to stay on your radar. And then what you can do, so it's a document that you can send out, that you can fill out. It's accessible through our Keller Williams resources. You can sort the sheet from 10 to 5. And now you know when you sit down in your lead generation time where your follow-up should be focused on, right? So obviously, the first people you want to follow up with are your 10s. Now, if you have somebody that's a 9, then you want to, if it's the first week of January like it is, and these people were 9s in December, well, that means that they should be 10s now that it's January, right? If they were 30 days out. So now you know at the beginning of the month, I need to follow up with my 9s to move them up the pipeline to 10s. I need to talk to my 8s, move them up the pipeline to 9s, and so on and so forth. It's a good way that you can put a book of business in front of your book of business in front of yourself, so that you can start to see how your income will flow through the year. And you'll also start to see where there might be gaps. So one of the keys to running a real estate business is to make your income really consistent. And in order to do that, you want to be able to look on this spreadsheet and say, okay, throughout the year, I know I have 9s and 8s and some 6s, but I have no 7s. So in 90 days, I might have a lull in my business where I'm not having these people that I'm nurturing. So I need to find a spot to fill in leads in that pipeline tool, and it can help you, really hammer down what your income is going to look like consistently through the year. And it will also help from keeping people from falling through the cracks. Because if you talk to somebody in January that says, I'm not really interested in listing my home until May, you want to make sure that you're following up with them appropriately, so that when May comes, they don't just go and list with somebody else because you forgot to follow up with them because they weren't right in front of you. Okay, so if you had to come up with 2 things, and we have 8, we have about 8 minutes left. So I have a couple more questions, and then if anybody has questions for Amanda, you can either type them if you're someplace where you can't talk into the chat box, or just unmute yourself and we'll do questions in the next minute or so. But if you could give 2 things that new agents should be focusing on right now, just 2, what would that be?
Script practice and lead generation.
Awesome. And so there is right now over, I think at this point, 50 agents in the productivity coaching program. Most of us are in our Facebook group. If you would like a script partner, the first place you should go is into our Facebook group, post it, and see if you can find somebody that is working on the same lead generation levers as you. So for instance, if you want to call expireds and for sale by owners, we'll put that into the post, so you make sure the person that you're talking to also wants to call for sale by owners and expireds. And I can help you with the strategy around script practicing. I think that you should be script practicing every day, really. That's how you'll gain confidence too. And when you do it with a live person, it's very helpful, because then they can really throw objections at you, right? Like real objections that they're hearing. So some tips, just a quick tip for script practice. If you're practicing with somebody else, you want to make sure you give them objections, but ultimately let them set the appointment. Okay, don't end the call and be like, "I hate you, bye." That's not gonna help with anybody's momentum. You're just gonna squash everything. So throw a couple objections, 2 objections, and then give them the appointment, and then vice versa, right? So script practice doesn't need to be an hour. It can be 15 minutes of, we do it over the phone, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I'll call you. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, you call me. On Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm the buyer. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, you're the buyer. And we just call, we run through it, and we hang up. You could probably do it in 10 minutes even, 2 times each. So it could be something as quick as that. And then lead generation, obviously, that should go towards your lead generation strategy that you have implemented and created in your 135 that you should have created now for your business plan. So if you need help on developing a lead generation strategy, that's certainly something we can work on in one-on-one coaching. There's also a video in our Google Drive folder that I have for you guys. There's a video in there. If you go to videos and then business planning, in there, it's how to create a lead generation strategy, and it will walk you right through the process of doing that. Okay, so We have about 5 minutes left. Does anybody have questions for Amanda on either anything she's talked to us about so far today or other questions we haven't covered yet?
I don't have any questions. However, Amanda, hi. I did get my license in PA also about 3 months ago.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I know I reached out to you a few months ago to see if there's, so I wanted to wait until the holiday's over, but I would like to either shadow you when you have your open house or kind of work with you side, just as a learning purposes, you know?
And I'm open for that. If anybody on group coaching wants to shadow me for an open house, a buyer consult, showing houses, anything, because there's things that I have, like processes and systems that I've now created based on the experience that I've had, that I am repeating over and over again to kind of streamline the process. Obviously it conforms, but I'd be open to that. So let's talk after this and I'll let you know what the next couple of things I'm doing out there is.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome. Other questions for Amanda? Okay, so I guess my last question would be if you have any last tips for realtors looking to build their business quickly.
Get a coach and let your coach hold you accountable to the goals that you set. It doesn't matter if you put the intention out there to do it or not do it. If you're not having somebody to hold you accountable, or you're not holding yourself accountable to the activities that it's going to take you to get there, then are you going to get there? We don't know, you know? So I would just say, get a coach, let them hold you accountable, be honest, because it's only you that you're affecting. And if you don't have to do everything, you can take, you know, one little suggestion at a time and implement that into your business. Not everything is meant for everybody. Your coach has got your business in mind, and they know what they're doing, you know, to get you to the next level. So I would just take the suggestions, even if it seems silly or, you know, it seems like, oh my gosh, I could never do that in a million years. I would just take the chance, because you'll surprise yourself, I think, at the results you'll get. So.
Awesome. I do have a question though, Amanda.
Yeah.
Do you find that it's easier to become more successful as an agent in a team, or is it just the same? Because I feel like maybe in a team they would hold you more accountable. And
so, yeah, a team is, a lot of people think a team is like an easy way out. It's just a different structure of a real estate business. And so I think I have just as many activities as a single agent does, except for I've got built-in leverage with being in the team, which is something as a single agent, until you get the volume of business, to be able to hire that leverage, we're all doing the same things. So this is the path I chose just because of the bigger picture of what it's going to be able to offer me in the long run. I see the vision for this team. I don't think that either way is easy. I think.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, not easy in a way where I meant like, do you find it that it's better in a group because you are held accountable, like you have certain things you have to do, whereas if you by yourself, like you kind of procrastinate and you don't do as well as you should be because, you know, nobody else is literally like pushing you to do your part type thing, or it's not like that?
It's not really like that. I
No.
think that if I don't do the activities on the team, whether I'm on the team or off the team, right, it's the same exact activities. If I don't do the activities, I don't make the money, I can't feed my family. So that's the mindset I'm in. And then I use my coach more for accountability, and the team I lean on for, you know, the leverage and the growth. Because now we all have the same common vision, you know, to grow together. So it's just that we like working with other people, right? Yeah, there's an extra layer of accountability because I've got a whole team that I don't want to let down. However, I think that it's really up to the individual. Either you want it or you don't want it.
So you're not more successful in a team, or, you know?
Well, it's yet to be proven. So I'm hoping that we don't go down that road, but
what I will say, and every team is different, but the expectation on Matt's team is that all of his agents lead generate. So that might be a point of clarity. Less someone minutes, so I don't want to get cut off. But Amanda lead generates the same way as she would if she wasn't on a team, right? She has a bigger database to pull from for sure because she has the benefit of the team's database, but she's not being handed business or handed leads in that sense. So it's the same activities that you would do as a solo agent. She does, but just more focused on buyers on the buyers team. So she still does her lead generation activities and all of that kind of